Thank you,
Okay.
and welcome back from lunch, everybody. Our next presenter here is going to cover my community explorer, and she is in a. I hope you don't mind this. She's our new Andy Haight, and will be our new presenter for these things. Unfortunately, Andy Haight, or fortunately, from his point of view, he got to retire. And so we all get to move along with new people, and that will be exciting because I am sure Barbara Zamora-Appel, our next speaker, will have a lot to show us from her new point of view. So with that, welcome, Barbara.
Thank you, Susan. I'm Barbara Zamora-Appel. I am a program analyst in the economic programs here at the Census Bureau, and I did work with Andy since 2014, since the Census Business Builder was a concept. And since he retired, we have released a new dashboard. It's not necessarily a tool, and I'll go over all of that in a moment. But at the Census Bureau, my role really is multifaceted. I not only work with the Census Business Builder, but I work with my Community Explorer and many others. I had a hand in the COVID-19 Hub, and I collaborate with different areas on pretty much things related to making it easier for the public to understand and use our data. So with that, I'm going to go with my Community Explorer. It is the newest dashboard, and what it is an interactive map-based dashboard that highlights demographic and economic and socioeconomic data. The data that you will find here is curated specifically to serve a particular purpose. So it's not like CBB. CBB has a lot more data, and of course, data at the census.gov, which has the majority of the data. So the data that we have put here is the one that help us understand inequality and help us inform database solutions. The reason why is because last year, the president signed an executive order 13985 that called for diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in the federal workforce. So this dashboard was developed specifically as a response to that. And in fact, the title, when we began the discussions, had equity in it, but we wanted to make it more longer. Instead of just having one word in it, we wanted to make sure that everybody could be able to use it for various reasons. So I have put the URL at the bottom here, and of course, the way that you get to it, and when I go live, I'll show you, but you can Google it. You can get to it from the COVID-19 Hub. You can get to it from the equity page at the Census Bureau, and you can get to it just by typing it within census.gov. These are the data sources that we have. As I mentioned earlier, they're curated, so they're not that many. And as we continue to update it, we'll add more based on what the public and data users like you tell us would be nice to have, and also based on how the needs change. But for purposes of this, we have some data from the American Community Survey, some data from the Community Resilient Estimates, county business patterns, non-employer statistics, and the Gini Index. One of the many differences between this dashboard and many of the other tools at the Census Bureau is that we are using layers, and the data that is within those layers come from a variety of sources. Because this dashboard is meant to serve as a part of multiple reasons, emergency preparedness, understanding equity in communities, understanding community resilience. So those data that we have here, like the active hurricanes, was added to help plan in case of an emergency, different types of emergencies. Is our community, my community, able to overcome it? We added the weather watches and warnings from National Weather Service. The hurricanes is from NOAA. Storm surge risk. So all the areas where there's a lot of water, that is an important factor for when planning, the wildfires from Irwin. And when I go live, you'll see how that displays for helping make informed decisions. We have the Air Now air quality monitoring data. We have, as we have developed this dashboard, we have heard that heat and air quality are very important factors for when planning and how to help our communities. We also have the National Weather Service 3-day minimum maximum temperature forecast. This is how the layers are displayed. The tool is relatively easy to use, but the first time you get there, you may be overwhelmed by what's going on. There's a lot. But once you use it once or twice, you'll see how easy it is to navigate. So the layers, you can click them on or off. So here what I have is the population 65 plus, as well as the fire layer displayed. And one thing that I need to mention is that when this dashboard was first released is when we started to get into hurricane season. So when you first get to the tool, the hurricane data will be displayed even if there is no hurricane. So you can just turn it off. But that was the genesis of why we wanted to display that, because that affects a large part of the country. And during hurricane season, it's like one after the other that come. The geography levels, we have data at the state, county, and tract levels. It is the reason for this dashboard. So if you don't see some of the typical geographies that you are used to in other tools, that's by design. So when I go live, I'll show you. But when you first get to the tool, I recommend that you put the state and then the county. So when you first get there, the data that you will see on this side and this side, that's for the whole country. Once you narrow down for the county, then this will update. However, if you want track data, you will have to click in this map, and this window right here is what will display the data from there. If you are at the county level, there will also be a link back to Census Business Builder where you'll be able to see a report related to that particular geography, the county level. We have county profiles, and there are several. We have I'll go over them, but as you see, the GIF is actually displaying. So we have economic, social characteristics, race and ethnicity, and business profile. So these maps and tables are displayed at the county level only. So this is part of when you choose over here, the state and county, that's what displays. If you were looking for tract level, it will not display here. The only place where you'll see the tract level data is within the map, as I showed a little bit ago. So this is an example of an emergency of a use case, or this is the key use case that we followed. So using the select tool and the community context panel, the emergency preparedness officials, or pretty much anyone that wants to, can see information for a region of counties or a state that may be potentially impacted by events like wildfires and hurricanes. Using the community profiles, you can identify underserved or potentially underserved communities within the region. And you could also see it as the what if. I don't want to forget to say that the data based on these layers is about 4 days old. So that is the latest data that we have access to. And because they're layers, they're not census data. They're just a service provided by the Esri developer that is behind these dashboards, as well as Census Business Builder. So this is another case study that or use case that can be used. There's unlimited number of use cases for this tool. But with that, let me go live and show you how you can get there. So to get there, you can go to census.gov, or again, like I mentioned, you can Google it. And census.gov recently changed, but there's a few pages that we now have. So for instance, you can go to the data equity tools, which is one of the pages that was recently developed based on the executive order request. But all of the tools that are displayed here can have or can be used as a way to get information about equity. Census Business Builder is one, the Census Poverty Status Viewer, Community Resilience Estimates, which is a separate supplement, but we're actually adding that data not just in the dashboard that I present today, but also we've started to add it to CBV. As with everything and CBV, there's always a chance to start something, see how it works, and then add the rest. And that's where we are right now. So these are other tools that we can find data equity in it. So here's my Community Explorer. So once you get there, oh, here's the Opportunity Atlas. People like that one too. That's not a tool from the Economic Directorate, but my colleagues would be able to present to you any of these tools if you would like. So my Community Explorer, when you first get here, you get presented by this window. When we first released this, we had pretty much a story. It was very lengthy, but essentially anytime that there is any update or any questions or anything, this is where you'll see the latest. But how you get out of this is either you can click the X or you can just click on the map and it'll go away. So this is what you see when you first get to the tool. This data over here is for the national. So this is the 120 million or 121 million households for the whole country. If we start on the top left, you can send feedback. This tool, as well as any other tool at Census now, depends on the feedback that we receive from you and the users that you present these tools to. This is the best way to get the feedback that you want is to send it to this email address that goes to a group of us, so it doesn't go to a single person. But also you can let Barbara or anyone really know what your feedback is, and they'll make sure to get it to myself or other team members. So that's about the feedback. You can see the responsive legend, which it has the community resilience estimates. In this case, it's the data that you'll see first. Of course, this can be updated with other information. You can see the reference layer legend on this side. And then when you go down to the bottom, the interactive map is what is already checked, and then the different profiles. These profiles right now are generated with data that will be generated with data once you click on the county, the state and the county. So right now they're empty. Throughout the tool, you will see links wherever there is an opportunity for going back. As I mentioned earlier, there's only predefined data that we added here, but as many people will understand, sometimes you want to get more of that data. So there are links back to various tools and or other areas for it. These are the core data sets that we thought were important for this data equity viewer or My Community Explorer. And that is the ACS 5-year estimates for household characteristics. So disability with broadband. There is a question outstanding, and it is something we're working on, is that right now you can see how many people have broadband, but the question has been raised, well, I would like to know what the percentage of people don't have broadband, because that is a different way of reaching out to them. So we're working on that. So in the next release, we may be able to add that particular one. And if you want the data to be displayed as a table, this is where you go. You can download it from here. And excuse the delay, that probably is my network. I'm using my home network for this. So this one will give you the data from the various data sets that we have displayed. Here's where we have the data sources, and we have links back to all of the owners of the data, not just census programs, but also those that are not census data. Here we have the about and how to use. This is, you can view it as a PDF. You can share it, download it and share it. And it's essentially giving you an overview of what I'm telling you now. So what data, what features, and how to display those features. We also have a video that we have added, and this video will just give you an overview like I'm doing right now. and it'll go specifically on the different things. So we don't need to view that right now. I'm giving you the live version. We have use cases. A couple of the examples I added on my presentation, but here you have the rest. And then you also are able to see the release notes. This is what you see, what is the latest information. So the tool, the version that I'm showing you right now was just released a few weeks ago. And then we did get more funding. So that means that we'll get the opportunity of updating it again. So when we first released it in June, well, actually, we released it first in March, but then the first big change happened in June. It was much different than what it looks like right now. And that's the exact same thing that happened with Salesforce Business Builder. The beta release, I cannot believe what it looks like now compared to what it would look then. So that was a very drastic difference in here too. So it is possible that as we continue to improve based on feedback, that this may look a little bit different as well. So here's the video demo again. So there's a couple of places where you can see it. So first in the about and how to, and then the video demo. You can share these, and unlike Census Business Builder, where you can actually send a predefined URL, it doesn't work like that here. When you share it with this URL, it'll take you back to the front, so you'll be able to choose the place, the county that you want. So let's go to, I don't know, California. And let's pick a large county. Let's see, LA. And as you see, it will start displaying the data. It's a little bit slow right now, but it already has updated this side with the data related to that particular place. Now, a lot of the planning for disaster or emergency planning happens at the lower levels. And in some cases, you want to know what your particular community looks like. So the track level is the next geography we have available. And for that, you're going to either click on the plus or just keep clicking until you get to where you need to be. So this is starting to display the data at the lowest level. So in this case, we have the census tract 5003 in LA. And as you can see, the data that is available at that level in this particular geography will then populate over here. And you're just gonna have to scroll down. It does have different colors. It is the way that we have it displayed, but again, feedback will help us get to where we eventually need to be. So if the data is available, then this is what it displays. So it does have ACS, race and ethnicity. You can actually hover over these things to see more of the data. And if you were at the county level, which actually I can be, you could click on this and it has the link for Census Business Builder where a report will build. And sometimes that takes a little bit, so we'll wait here. Now let's go to the bookmarks. As you can imagine, Alaska and Hawaii would not fit very nicely in the map, so we do have the bookmarks that will take you directly there, and or going back to the lower 48. Here is where the CRE information is. Close out of here. And we can go now to Arizona, see what's over here. The guiding principle behind this is like CBB, you should be able to just start clicking around. You don't have to go back and type your, what geography you want. It's I guess the way that we're going with our tools at the Census Bureau. Easy to use, easy to navigate. And now let's go to the layers. So let me zoom out of here first so you can see how it displays. So the first layer you see, and right now I can show you that there are no hurricanes, right? Otherwise, they would be
We
either in
actually
this.
have a request.
Yes?
We have a request that you show McKinley County, New Mexico, because it's that red block in New Mexico
Right
on your
here?
map. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so McKinley County, New Mexico has a total population of 71,000 people, and it has, this is where the CRE comes in. If you have a predominant category of risk factor of 3+, it means that it is likely that they will have a lot more challenge overcoming a disaster. So that's how it reads. And we do have typically one of my colleagues in the CRE area that goes and gets very much into the technical of the CRE. And the supplement for that, we do have the community resilience estimates dashboard on its own. But here we have the data related to that. We have some of the ACS data, population that is Hispanic Latino with the difference from national estimate. Again, how you read this, and I actually do rely on the feedback that I get. If after we finish today, you go back and you say, you know what, this makes sense, doesn't make sense, or I don't quite get it, please let me know. Because what we want with this...
If you look at the number of American Indians in there, not surprising, that's where Gallup is, and the Navajo Nation and the Zuni Pueblo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how it is displayed the data, if you think it, you know, it's interesting when I start looking, because as I do these demos, I go to different geographies just like I'm doing that. I was doing one for Ohio the other day and Florida another day. So it's very interesting to see the comparisons because it's not the same. Different areas are not affected by wildfires, for instance. So
we have a hand raised, and if you don't mind, let's have Cindy. Cindy, go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
I cannot hear you.
Hear me now.
I hear you very, very quietly.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so when you went into that box for McKinley County and you scrolled all the way down, it said something about housing. Way down, 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 down. On the right-hand side, not statistically, what?
No, statistically different. So the heading here is difference from national estimate. So it's pretty much very similar to the national estimate for rental vacancy rates. So it's hard to see that. The topic is this, and then the difference from national estimate.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I
know when you
actually
go.
thought it said it was not statistically available.
Oh, no.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for letting me know. I cannot see hands or the chat when I'm presenting. Okay, so since we don't have any hurricanes, I'm gonna turn this off. I'm gonna now turn off the weather watches. See if there's any. And wildfires. This is where it starts actually showing some things. Let me see. Now it could happen also that the service is not working, in which case, death by demo, right? It's not displaying. Oh, there it is. Okay, so it's a little bit slow. So you can see where the wildfires are. And today is actually pretty good. There's some days in which almost half of this area is covered with wildfires. But this area has a lot of them, and they're little. So this data is about 4 days behind. So it's pretty recent, and the same is with all of the layers. The good thing about these layers is you can turn them off, or you can turn them off or on. So if you're looking at New Mexico, you know that there are some fires, and the only information that will come up when I press on the fire right now is the same information as before. So you're essentially looking at either the county or the track. And the good thing about it, again, to me, is a pretty nice feature that it redraws based on where you are. So if I live there and I go to Texas, then it redraws with that information. So you can do all of that with all the layers. And if you want to go back, we do have these layers in the top by design, but we can always change them around. We go down and we can see the county business patterns from the Census Bureau. And again, apologies, my network is a little slow, but it should be drawing very quickly on the map. And so here's the information for the county business patterns. And as you go down, of course, you don't want to overwhelm the map, but that's why it's good to actually close some so that you can start seeing just the data that you want displayed. This map, you can do a screen grab. You cannot download a report like you do with Census Business Builder, but you can actually do screen grabs of the data. You have education attainment. So this is what gives you the ability to show or display the data however much data you want. I don't recommend that you have like, I don't know, 10 layers at the same time, because then it's very difficult to assess what it is that you're trying to show. But that's what the easy way to do it is. So we have language spoken at home, English less than very well, population 65 plus, the Gini index, the predominant risk factors. So these are the ones that come with, like every time that you come to this tool for the first time, this is what comes open, because again, purpose of the tool, equity, and what better way to understand that than to have the CRE estimates. So now that we've seen what you can find in the map, let's go to the profiles. So here is the economic profile. And again, it displays a little bit of the map here, or a map very small. And then the Gini index, the households income below poverty, income under 75. So these again are the data that we thought makes sense to have here. And if you think that there is another data set that we should add, that's how we're going to start making those changes. It makes sense to have you, the user, tell us what is the best information to display. Because again, even though we are using user experience and customer service experience, we still are making those decisions at the headquarters level, but it's important to have that feedback from you. Here are the social characteristics. You can make this bigger or smaller. Sometimes it's better to make it bigger to do a screen grab. And that's actually done with all of these things. So if you want to present specific data, I know that in comparison with the font size, this is really rather large compared to this. But here is an example of, you can go back to data.census.gov to navigate the data more in depth. Okay, so we then can go to the race and ethnicity. The tooltips are quite handy as you navigate over them. It is something that we are taking from Census Business Builder. So what some of my colleagues will say is that we took some of the best components of about 3 different dashboards / tools to make this. And so it is interactive, it is easy on the eye, and I think it makes it for a nice experience to see it. But again, your feedback will be taken into consideration if that's not how you see it. As you start navigating the tool here, some of these start to change. And of course, it has to based on the data that you're looking at. And here we have the business profile. So the total employer establishment and the non-employer firms. And the data is the latest that we could add so that it makes sense to have them in those vintages. So that is essentially what this tool has. And you can share it on social media. As I mentioned earlier, you can download the data via table, and you can go back to the data sources for all of this. Any questions?
So in the chat, Cindy noted that this tool is user-friendly.
Thank you.
And I'm liking the fact that you have that those values, because people often ask, how do you know an area is not going to recover fast, or it's got high poverty or something? I think that those are really useful for a lot of people that I work with.
Yes, and understanding community resilience estimates is actually a different demo, but it does help with helping plan for the future. Because if you have a CR estimate that is a factor of 3 or more, then you know that that area will need more help or more attention as you are trying to either plan for being prepared for an emergency, or during or after. So the more funding could be added based on it. And what this tool has done is adding not just that, but also is, as I mentioned earlier, do they have broadband access? Do they have cars? Can they evacuate on their own, or do they need buses? So that's how you start looking into how this tool can help.
Well, I do have one question. I didn't see gender pulled out, and I know there are a lot of people who are doing gender equity in New Mexico.
Let's see.
Did I miss it?
Had that.
Is it piece? It's a piece in there if I'm looking at that, right?
Yes. You know, I thought we had that. That kind of goes with almost everything we do. But I'll have to look at the data more closely.
I didn't see male, female. And then and we know the big one there is the income breakout.
Right.
And then by gender and race. I don't know.
So yeah, we have the race and ethnicity. And that I gotta double check on that.
Maybe it's under this, well, maybe it's under social characteristics.
So we have the language, and then we have disability, living alone. So let me check on that. I see so many tools every day, so apologies for that.
And I only know because I'm getting ready to work with somebody on gender equity in New Mexico. Felicity, go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
So I am trying it out myself. I'm looking at the map. And how do I get into the place with the 3 tabs at the bottom? Can you just show me that again?
These tabs, the profiles? Are these the profiles, the ones you're talking about?
Yes.
So when you're in the map and you have selected your state and your county, these are the tabs. You have to have selected a county for them to actually populate with that county. Do you see them?
Oh, do you mean the tabs way at the bottom?
Yes.
Let me try again.
Yeah, they're static. So the tabs are there, but if you have not chosen your county, they will be empty.
And just working through it, I just noticed myself that I had to actually click step 1 and select New Mexico, and then clicked into the county, and it populated for me.
Yes.
Good question, Felicity.
So yes, one of the guiding principles is user friendliness. So if you find yourself stuck in something, please let me know, because that's the kind of thing that we want to improve upon. One is the data that we have here relevant to your need? Because it does make sense that the data for Florida, because they have, oceans, may be a little bit different than for Colorado, for instance, or for Kansas or Utah or Hawaii, for that matter. So those are the feedback that I would like to know. What is the data that you most are interested in having? And I think that there was one request from a few weeks ago about not hurricanes, but tornadoes. Because they don't get hurricanes, they get tornadoes. And that's a very different thing. Any other questions?
I'm not seeing one unless, Felicia, you still have a question?
Sorry, let me lower my hand.
It's okay. Yeah, I'm not seeing the male-female breakout, so I'll give you that feedback, is we couldn't easily find male-female breakout here.
I will actually, we have planning meetings every Thursday, so I'll discuss this with, I thought I had seen it, but I may be mistaken. Okay, well, thank you so much for allowing me to present this to you, and please do give me feedback. Now, since I have a little bit of time, I would like to go to Census Business Builder, which is my baby. And I did work with Andy since this was a concept. So he and I have been co-leads for all these many years, but he was the travel person. I always stayed back. So let me go to, let me see where we are. So this is where we are right now. We're not live. So this is my testing area. So the way that we have done this, and this is a call for action too. Every single time we have releases, we're always looking for testers that are outside of firewall. Why? Because everything for us works great within the firewall, but then once we leave it, we sometimes find bugs that we were not thinking about. So what we have right now is a very drastic change from the Census Business Builder that you are used to. And why we did this is because we started seeing that a lot of the users were using both editions, the Small Business Edition and the Regional Analyst Edition. Different purposes, but you had to go to different things. Also, our leadership at Census wanted us to see how we can make it, again, user-friendly, get the data and the experience that the user is expecting, but also have a one place to go for it. So this is what it looks like now. We have moved away from, let me actually see if I should be able to go to it live right now. And Census Business Builder, as you know it, it's essentially this. This is the Small Business Edition, and the Regional Analyst Edition, it looks just very similar to this without this. So what we have done now is move away from it, because we figured to go to the Small Business Edition, usually people want to choose what type of business they want to open. So they can either choose from the most common ones or enter a name and or an NAICS code. But now we can start everyone with a location. So if we want to go to, let's see, where should I go to? Give me a county within New Mexico.
McKinley.
Okay. Okay, there you go. But actually, let me go back. We added a tour, and why we did that is because it's new. And if you wanted to spend a few minutes, more than a few minutes, going through 42 slides, it will give you a tour of this tool. So it tells you what it is. It shows you what it does. And you can go there with the 42 little slides to get an interactive by you overview of the tool. So that's how you would be able to see, your own private demo of what the tool has. Or you can just go into the tool, like I've done here. And the tool will draw, and we have actually changed before it would display in multicolors, because that's what people had requested. We had focus groups in 2015 that said people like the colors. But this time we've gone down to the green blue. You can still go back to the unique colors. These are all 508 compliant. Or you can stay with, oh, we added coral. I don't know how many people would like that one, but I'm going to go back to the green blue. So we made it easy and for you to actually choose what display, how you want it to be displayed. This dashboard is very, very similar to what we have currently. So let me just choose a couple of things here, and it's not working. Again, I think it's my network. So when you first get down to the tool, after you have chosen the location you want to go to, this is the data that you will see. It's very same that we had before, but it is a little bit cleaner and compressed. So you'll see that this doesn't have like the actual numbers. So you will have to actually click on this and it will open up and give you all the direct. We do have the margins of error as we had before. The data that we have, you can, if you want to select and showcase this, let's see, total annual payroll, you can do that by just pressing on the star. It's the same thing that we had before. We have the tooltips that appear every time that you hover over any of these things. And we are able to see if the data is available, what it has in those, in that geography. That's kind of like the big change that we have. Because we combined two, we now have two options. If you want to just do the Census Business Builder Small Business Edition experience, you stay within here. All you have to do is this. You can click. We used to have a way to change the geography here, by clicking on the map, and then here. We have now moved away from that. Since we added the second variable, we wanted to make sure that people could actually see that we had two options. So the first one is what we have. Then the second variable will be here. Let's say that I wanted to see building permits, 1 unit building. It already drew, it does it automatically, or you can remove it. So that's a nice change that we added, and then you can just click out of it. So it currently displays as a circle and a square if there's no data or the data is suppressed. We are in the future, and if we were to have more money, is you'll be able to actually hover over this, and this will tell you the data, but we're not there yet. It's just nice to have that we still don't have. So that's how you have the primary and then the secondary. Filters, same thing. You can still add filters up to 6, if I'm not mistaken. And you can see, you can change and or narrow down where you are based on either more population or less population. And as it starts to gray out, it means that what you're looking for is not there. So if you want areas of just over 125,000 or 126,000 people, then you start to see that is, especially in this part of the country, it's not the same. Now, if you were in New York, it would be a lot higher. So that's what it does. You can continue adding filters. And as you start choosing the filter, it automatically starts to display here. So you don't have to press finish for it to start working. As you can see, it starts to gray out because I'm choosing more areas that have a higher percentage of female. And whatever is not grayed out is where you'll find more females per male. You can click finish so that it actually saves, and then you can close it up. Now, if you want to delete the filter, you can easily just do that and go back. You can still download the data, CSV, Excel, and shape files. And as before, the entirety of the map extent is what you'll get as you download either via CSV or Excel. We do have the reference layers, the predefined ones. And this is something that I've always asked. If there is one other layer that in your area is relevant and that we think would actually make sense to have for other areas of the country, this is where it will go. We have the base maps. We are actually adding code to track how often people use these different things. It's just an interest that we have. Most people actually think, I think, stay within the light gray canvas. Some people like the imagery. It's really all depending on what you're used to and what you like. And then, of course, as before, you can get to see more or less of the map. It really all depends on what you're interested in. In the legend, we still have map configuration. You still get to see, you can have, I'll be updating all of these flyers to represent or to reflect the new look and feel. And there it is. It just shows you what we have. And we have the classing methods, quantile, equal intervals, and that. And we have the cluster. Again, all of this is very similar to what we had in the existing one. It's just a little bit cleaner. You still get a chance to either search for an industry or add an industry from the predefined. You can still look for one using NICS codes. One cool thing that we've added is if you click on this, it sends you to the next page, North American Classification System. And to get more information on that, I know that a lot of our users are just starting to learn about the North American Classification System. So this is why we added that. So that is essentially the new look and feel. I can now go, oh, and here you can configure. You can just show the charts, or you can show both as we just had it. So let me close this down. And then I'm going to open the region view. So this is what the Regional Analyst Edition had. And you can still have the ability to draw or manually choose which areas you want to add to your region. You can draw a rectangle, or you can draw a circle, or use a polygon. It is very, very easy. You finish and you're done. You can create your region report. And again, it takes a little bit to draw. So I can go back, and to me, it looks a lot cleaner than it did before. Now I'm going to go back and edit the region. I want to clear it all. I want to finish because I want to show you the pre-built regions. And this we just added in the last 2 versions. The first one we had added was the Weather Forecast Office region. That's the one that tells us the weather. And we're working with NOAA. That's a NOAA region. And they're working with us to make sure that we have the right boundaries. Just last iteration of CBB, we added the SBA hub zones and the hot opportunity zones. Why did we add that? Because almost every conference that I went to pre-pandemic back in 18 and 19, any small business conference that I went to, especially those sponsored by SBA, talked about these zones, the hub zones and the opportunity zones. And that's, I believe that that's where there's a lot of funding. So when people are thinking of opening or expanding a business, they're looking for where does it make sense to do that. And that's why we added this. So there's a predefined, so you can select the state and then the county or the tract, and then you go that way. So those are the bigger changes of CBB. Let me see if the reports drew. Yes, they did. So here's a report. It is a lot cleaner. You still can customize this. You can show different things. We still have the MOEs. You can download the data, CSV, Excel, or PDF, and you can configure the components. There are some data areas that don't draw because there is no data, but like that one. The other big change is that in the previous 2 editions, the business totals or the business comparison was only available at the RAE edition, and the key ratios. Oh, these 3 components were only available in RAE, and now they're available here. So that's the new CBB. Any questions? And this is going to go live on December 2nd.
So one, I'm just going to note for our affiliates, you guys are the first ones to really get to see this. That's why you wanted to come today to the affiliate meeting. And then Cindy Jarvison and I are both commenting, we really like the look and feel of CBB. We're excited to see that come out in December.
Thank you. And we're still adding, thinking about adding more. There's a bug, so it's not mobile optimized. What we did with the new CBB is we recreated the whole system. So we call it refactoring. And so the code was rebuilt from scratch. And so it's like building 2 new things. So the mobile optimized, we're starting work in the next few weeks, and that will be released in March. We're also gonna bring Gov's data, maybe by 3.2, that's mid next year. and update all the other data. The ESRI component of the data will be updated by 3.1. So there's a lot that we have now and also in the future.
It's so exciting. Data geeks are going, yay!
Thank you.
Go ahead, Cindy's clapping.
Well, I'm raising my hand. I'm wondering, where's, again, I think you mentioned this in the very beginning, but where are you extracting the data from? What are all the locations? Like the weather and the.
Oh, there. So we have let me share my screen again. So Census has is working with ESRI, and ESRI is the mapping interface. So this is built, I don't know if you can see at the very bottom, it says ESRI right here. So if you go to My Community Explorer, this is built on ArcGIS. So ArcGIS is an ESRI tool, or they own a lot of the mapping in the world. And so they have this thing called the services, so the layers. So those layers go to ESRI from many different sources. And in our case, they're sources from NOAA, from wildfire, from a lot of different places. And then we, because we're users of ArcGIS, then we're able to grab them. So where we have these layers right here, we can add more. And you can see these are actually grayed out because we don't have them available. So once we turn those, I say turn them on, then they'll become available to us. But they are a service. So we don't speak for that data. That data is simply a service that we're pulling. I understand it's coming directly from those sources. So you see here, NOAA is coming from them, NWS. So that's, I requested that we added these things in parentheses. So you, the user, would understand that this is not census data. I mean, I know you know that. For a casual user that has never used something like this, then they would probably not know. But that's where it's coming from. And so we can add more depending on what it is that the user thinks they makes more sense. But when talking with the geography area from Census, they've told me we have access to a lot of different data sources. And in fact, part of the feedback that we're getting from the advisory committee is to get, I think, more of that data that doesn't necessarily just come from Census. So for CBB, we have the BLS data, Bureau of Labor Statistics, and we have the USDA NAS data that is not census data, and we have the ESRI data. Those three data sets or data sources were very, very new to Census. When we started adding these things, it was a little bit controversial. Why are we adding data that is not census? Well, for us, it made sense. Ag data, agricultural data, we used to have it, but we don't. So that partnership with USDA NAS made sense. And with BLS, again, it made sense to have it. The consumer spending data is the one that we purchase from ESRI, and it has all of these things right here. So expenditures of where they're spent. So if the user goes out of town and spends, it's aggregated, of course, we'll never know which user, but it gives us a different glimpse as to if I'm trying to open a business, how often or how much people are spending on breakfast versus lunch versus dinner. It makes sense. So this data is updated once a year, or whenever ESRI has it. They're usually ahead for some reason. It's like we're adding like 23 data in like December is the way that they tabulate it. And they've actually explained to us their methodology, but sometimes it's like, okay, you're giving me 23 data in 22, why? So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, she said, yay, but there is a want, and I actually can answer this a little bit, Cindy. There's a want to see the number of business licenses issued by county, but I know that the census doesn't actually capture business licenses that are issued at the local level or even the state level, because the state does that and doesn't submit that to the Census Bureau. But I do know that you have that new business formation data. And is that going to be available?
Yes, I mean, if the data is available and the vintage fits well within what we have, then yes. So just let me make a note of that before I forget it.
I happen to know because I was looking at that data in terms of the pandemic. We saw a huge number of new businesses come out, and it's the Census Bureau publishes it, called the new business formation. It's a really cool data set,
Yes,
and it shows that there's this huge number of new businesses forming, mostly sole proprietors, since the pandemic, because people, you know, if I don't have a job or I can't go to work, I'll start my own business and do something.
Right, and even if we don't have it in CBB, and Barbara would know this, that we have access to a lot of the data, and all you have to do is call the call center. They are a lot of subject matter experts sitting there willing and able to help. But again, that goes against what we're trying to do here, which is one place for you to get our data. And that's our goal. We're trying to improve on that. And that's what the advisories are telling us, that they want us to provide the data that you need in a easy way to get it and consume it.
So Barbara, thank you so much for your presentation today. We're excited. We just absolutely adore both the products that are being put out here.
Thank you. And if you think of any other feedback, please let me know. We are starting with 5.1 and looking towards 5.2, which means that if there is an ask like what you just asked, the business formation statistics, it is something that could be done by middle of 23.
Cool.
It's just 6 months away, 8 months away. Okay, well, thank you so much for having me.
We'll see you tomorrow.